to another edition of What's So Funny, the show that probes the brains, the minds, the psyches, and the brains of the people who make the funny. As part of the Commonwealth Comedy Cooperative, Canadian comics Phil Nichol and Craig Campbell, who live and work in Britain, have returned briefly to their homeland to participate in the Cross Canada Snowed-In Tour that hits town this coming February the 12th. Whilst traveling between shows in Vernon and Port Alberni, Phil and Craig are taking time to talk with What's So Funny. And now a man currently contemplating questions for the comics. Your host and MC, Mr. Guy McPherson, who just snorted.
That was Craig. That was a cop. And Craig, or Kevin, by Cross Canada.
That was a moose call, by the way.
You mean BC and Alberta, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right, yeah. Yep.
Well,
BC and
that's the important part of Canada, right?
Thank you. Thanks, Kev. It's perfect. You're on board.
I know Craig
Can you drive?
Yeah, totally.
Stick?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. You're on.
Yeah.
You're in.
Drunk? Can you drive drunk?
Okay. Can you open a beer between your legs while you're rolling a joint with one hand?
Always.
You're on.
Guys on the road.
We got Craig Campbell from Calgary originally.
Woo! That's right, Guy. You got to do that after you hear Calgary if you're from there. Woo!
Phil, where are you from?
I was born outside Glasgow in Scotland.
Oh, I read that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But raised in Pickering outside Toronto.
Right.
So we got three Scotsmen here.
Aye.
McPherson.
Aye, we.
Aye.
Nichol.
Campbell.
Campbell. Hey.
Kevin, what's your last name, Kevin?
Don't screw this up, mate.
Demorier.
Aye.
They're very Scottish.
Smith.
Let's hear it.
It's very Scottish. Smith.
Smith.
It's more Scottish than
it's a miss.
Scottish.
It's a miss.
It's a great tartan.
Aye. Smith tartan.
It's just black.
Aye.
Yeah,
that's a dress.
I'm not going to have to say much this hour at all, and I like it because Craig, I interviewed you once over the phone, and it was you're a raconteur.
You say that now, but now the pressure's on. Now I don't want to. I don't want to go into any mold, Guy. All right, pushing me into a corner. I'm not.
Craig, I remember seeing you way back when you lived in Vancouver. In fact, you went. I saw you in Victoria. You played some room that doesn't normally do comedy.
What?
Do you remember? What year would that be?
Julie's, maybe? Was it Julie's on a Sunday?
Possibly.
Could have been, yeah. Years of, could have been from 1991 to maybe 1996, something like that would have been my sort of active years around here.
91, 96.
Yeah. Great years.
They were the glory years of
and great
comedy.
memories. And just being back in town today is wonderful, going by old haunts. And I pointed out to Phil where I had last seen Colin Campbell at the Sheraton there on Robson. And
the late great
Colin. And and just little places along the way that remind me of how much how many years I spent here and how much time I enjoyed my life here.
No relation, Colin Campbell.
No, not at all. But I actually very much embarrassed myself very, very early on. It might have been my first, maybe second, maybe fifth time on stage. I hadn't been doing it at all, and was backstage doing a guest spot at Yuck Yucks in Calgary, and I can't. I think it might have been Bob Choman comparing or emceeing, and he, of course, said, was announcing to the audience who was going to be on the show that night, and said, blah, 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 Colin Campbell, and I came out from behind the curtain and said, no, it's Craig, and in front of an audience, Guy. Can you imagine in a million years doing that? And I was not curtly, but very dismissively told, in fact, there's another Campbell here that is a billion times funnier than you'll ever be, you pinhead. Get away from the stage. Your 3.5 seconds on the mic will be in 15 minutes. You loser.
Yeah, he was great. Phil, did you know Colin Campbell or know of him?
No, I know of him. I think we were discussing that. I know of him. We were discussing that today. But I never got a chance to meet him. See, when I started working in Canada, it was with Corky and the Juice Pigs, and we kind of worked outside the stand-up circuit. We very quickly moved away from any of the clubs. And
stand-ups hate musical acts, right?
Yeah, well,
because they're successful.
Overall, yeah, exactly.
Why do they have such a big audience?
Although today we were listening to Sam Kinnison's Wild Thing. Yeah, eat that, losers.
He crossed over, man.
He did cross over.
Yeah, were you Corky or a Juice Pig, or was there?
I was all of it. I was and the. I was the whole thing.
Oh, really? Now I know why you guys broke up.
Yeah, no, exactly. The other two guys were just puppets.
Prima donna.
Animatronic.
Sean Cullen and then the other guy.
The other guy, Greg Neal.
Greg Neal. What's Greg Neal doing now?
Greg's he played in my last show. He which was a poetry show called The Welcome to Crazy Town. He was the pianist in it, and he writes some. So he lives in Australia with his wife and 2 kids.
Wow.
In Castlemaine, where they make the beer, 4X.
Yeah.
Australians don't give a 4X for anything else.
I was going to ask you, who was the Yoko Ono of the Juice Pigs? Why did you guys break up?
The Yoko Ono. It was actually
Fox.
Yoko
It was
Ono.
Fox.
It was actually Yoko Ono.
Really?
You would hard to believe, isn't it? She started hanging out with Sean, and
That girl is busy.
Yeah, he likes Japanese food.
Before you knew it.
They had kids, and so. Oh no!
Why did you break up?
Why did we break up?
You had a great run there, right?
Oh yeah, we did like 10 years together. Yeah, we were at the height of our fame. We were on Mad TV for a season.
Yeah, you were
On
their
the Fox.
favorite band.
We were their favorite band. That's what they said.
That was
yeah.
my attempt, by the way, at the Bare Naked Ladies.
What's that?
Be my Yoko Ono.
Oh, Be My Yoko Ono. Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was my. Can't exactly.
hey,
that.
there
You can
you
be my Yoko
No,
Ono.
I love the Bare Naked Ladies.
Bare Naked Ladies used to open for you guys,
They
right?
did. They came
Wild,
on a cross Canada tour with us when it was just Ed and Steve. The story being that Steve had gone to university. Ed had just finished high school and was going off to I think UBC, or it might be the other way around. But either way, we convinced them to stay together and tour with us. They were more of a music act, but they did sort of they sang silly ditties.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. They used to dress like with matching suspenders, shorts, and little hats with cats' ears and eyes on them.
And where are they now?
Where are they now?
Well, they're back to being just Ed and Steve.
I just saw them. No, they're not.
Oh, no, not Steve.
No, Steve.
Yeah.
I just saw them in London, actually. I went to see them at the Apollo, and because Kevin Hearn, who plays piano, took over for Jim Cregan and Andy Cregan, and plays piano with them now, used to play in the Juice Pigs as well did 2 years with us, and is now on tour with Lou Reed, and so more.
And the stand-up comedians hated him too. By
They
the
hated
way.
him.
I just had to get that in.
Hated who? Kevin?
Kevin Hearn.
Why did they hate
Kevin Hearn is actually.
At that time he was doing musical comedy, and we can't. We couldn't have that.
Can't have that. No,
And he's related to Harlan Williams.
he's related to Harlan Williams,
There you
and
go.
now playing on tour with Lou Reed.
Who is he?
Oh, now I really hate him.
Yeah, I know exactly. Hey, no,
What a jerk!
Lou Reed's not a comedian.
That's got to be
so
horrible.
It's all right then.
Can you imagine?
Actually, it's more about where am I, not where are they now? Where am I now?
Yeah.
You are a huge star in England.
In this room,
In
as
this
well.
room.
And in this room.
I know both
On
of
the
you.
walk over here from the
Both of
hotel,
you
you
know
were
me.
massive then.
I know. Thank you very
When
much.
we had bubble tea today,
We had
in
bubble tea.
in the bubble tea cafe. There were, clearly
Dragon Ball.
nobody was more famous than you.
Dragon Ball. I was the most famous bubble tea drinker there. I had almond.
This gets me to why and when you guys both decided to get out of the country, move over to England.
It follows on from your question. I had been going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with the Juice Pigs, and we had a very successful. We'd been nominated for the Perrier, and we'd been appeared on Jonathan Ross television, which
They
is
were
like
massive
Britain's-
over there.
Yeah, it was like Britain's Letterman. And when the Juice Pigs broke up, I had friends there who were agents and handled other comedians, and they said, "Well, why don't you come here?" I was born in Scotland, so I have a passport, and they said, "Why don't you come here and try doing some stand up?" So that's what I did, really out of complete necessity. Yeah, exactly.
And that was
then-
what year?
And then Craig came. Once we realized we could marry, Craig came, and I kind of strong-armed me into it. To be honest, I didn't want to do it, but there's only so much glass you can eat. And so when
And that was what? 1990.
that was 1997, 1998, if you're the British tax authorities.
Right. Clearly, I'm not.
This would be good. This is the kind of thing they will hear and then hold against me. No, I moved
Was
there.
that when you
I
were doing
moved
the
there,
whiskey show
moved
with
there in
Wilmot?
1998.
Was that the whiskey show with Wilmot?
No, I did in 1997.
Balloon?
1997, I did
Yeah.
a show called Crack Up Canada, was my first. I compared a show that had Mike Wilmot was the headliner, and a sketch troupe called the Radio Free Vestibule
Yes,
out of Montreal.
Montreal, of course.
And my wife at the time and I put the money together and brought them over to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and it was a relatively successful run for the show, extremely successful for Mike Wilmot, and he's been going back there ever since, and is actually
Huge.
probably more successful than both of us.
Yeah, nice.
In Britain.
Nice.
Thanks.
So we
Yeah.
hate him.
Yeah, we hate him
We
too.
hate him too.
And he sings.
I thought you guys all cheered for
he
each other.
does.
Oh no!
There's no way Mike
Kinda hate
Wilmot
him.
sings.
Mike Wilmot sings. You put on the Mike Wilmot CD.
But I can tell you, Phil and I made a horrendous mistake once a few years back in London. Well, more so, I had made a horrendous mistake. Well, it wasn't a normal evening for you either. We made the mistake of going casually drinking with Mike Wilmot, and we ended up on the South Bank on the side of the Thames, and it was about 3 in the afternoon, maybe 4 in the afternoon.
Teatros.
No, Teatros was later. We were having pints, which I'm not. A pint is good for me. That's if I'm meeting friends, that would be more than enough volume of beer.
Wait a minute. We were drinking in the afternoon that day?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, and then after a couple of pints, which, as I say, was one pint.
Can I interject one more time? All I really remember from that night was Teatros. So continue the story. I'm curious.
Well, you must remember the police station.
No.
And so we're about 2 beers beyond where I should have been at any point. Now you remember.
I remember the police station.
Just coming back.
So at about maybe 4:35 on a really nice afternoon, we just it was the worst realization I've ever had in my life. We thought, all of us collectively and this is such an odd thing, guys, such an infinitesimal odds of potential that these 3 guys who were really, really busy in our own lives individually, just realized almost at the same moment that none of us, for whatever crazy reason in the universe, were not working that night. Wilmot's over only to work. Phil and I are incessantly working all over the place. We're all 3 of the most active people we know. And all of a sudden at this picnic table beside the Thames, as we're just getting a bit sloshed, realized, whoa, we don't have anything to do tonight at all. So at that point, Wilmot, of course, why don't we go out and have a drink? At this point, I'm thinking, retrospectively, we've already had. Aren't we drinking already? Phil suggests the great place to go at this point, Teatros.
Teatros, yeah.
Because their big drink of the century is absinthe in its many different forms. So,
but proper absinthe that you can't from Czechoslovakia. It still has the wormwood in it.
Sure, so and it still has a picture of Van Gogh without an ear on it.
Real deal.
Blood spattered, picture of him with a knife.
Yeah, you get a little ear. There's a little ear in the
comes
bottom,
with a cup because you're probably going to be drinking it somewhere that you're not inside.
Yeah.
And it was also, if you recall, it probably didn't happen here, but it was a massive thing because it had just been relaunched. The illegal absinthe had just been made re-legal by whatever, how they'd refiltered it so that there was no wormwood in it. And now they were trying to make it, hey kids, why don't you get back into absinthe? So we go into this place, Teatros, to drink with Wilmot, who we're already drinking with. And it started with the kind of parfait glass ones, all the different fruity colors and strawberries on it. Then it went to the traditional, cook the sugar with the absinthe in it, pour that into the absinthe, shoot it down like a tequila shot. Yeah. Basically,
anything you have to heat a spoon to drink, I think, is probably you're heading into a weird area.
Yeah, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
at all.
You're heating spoons now.
So now the 3 of us have been drinking absinthe for however many hours, I don't know. But I do remember that we were all going to meet in front of Teatros, which is literally from the chair getting up, maybe 15 feet to a main hallway.
Well, there was the last call was ordered, and Mike went, should we just have, will we have another one? Went, yeah, and he got us triples, if I remember correctly, because he thought, and then he had us drink them through a straw. So that's the last bit that I really remember clearly.
And then we're to meet in front of the club. This is very clear to me, because everything is very clear in snapshots when you're that high on absinthe. And literally at that moment, it was like a grenade had gone off. Our lives went into absolute. We were pumped into every direction. I'm now in the front of the club looking for Phil. Never ever saw him again that night. Looking for Wilmot. Never ever saw him again that night. I'm in front of the club watching the door for what I thought was long enough that they're now closing up. Didn't see any of them again. End up in a cab with I'll never forget it, a Nigerian dude who's got a massive sermon of an outdoor sermon in Nigeria on loud in his cab. So just, this ridiculous, overtly Christian screaming and yelling in a heavy Nigerian accent. Barely a word of English slipping out of it, but it's all in English. And we were able to get back to my house, where I thanked him kindly for the reprogramming. I remember distinctly getting into the bathtub clothed, because I realized I am not going to be able to clean myself and the house off, and then just began screaming, puking. Just, went from clearing my guts to just shrieking for hours, literally praying to the good Lord to take my life because of the pain I was in.
As our flatmates bent over the bath going, where's Phil?
Helping.
Where's Phil? Craig, where's Phil? Oh! Where's Phil?
Where was Phil?
Where was Phil? Where was Phil?
So cut to, let's go to the next day now.
Well, that's when I came home.
Yeah, we're talking, noon the next day?
Maybe. I don't remember.
Phil arrives. He's disheveled at this point, guy.
Yeah.
He's wearing the same clothes that he had on the previous day, but he's roughed up.
I've scuffed my face from chin straight through the nose.
So how did that happen? You don't know.
I feel like I might have been rolled. I don't know.
You think it might have been maybe the cab?
Might have been the cab.
Might have been the cab.
Might have been the cab driver. Or I might have been the cops. No, I don't think it was the cops. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because I remember about 30-second chunks and about 5 of them.
Yeah.
And one of them was, I kind of remember being slapped and waking up and having a policeman with a English policeman's hat on leaning over me screaming, hello, 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 and behind him a cab driver going,
that's him.
That's him, right?
Him.
And then the next thing I remember is that guy, the policeman's still there going, waking me up. There's some water in my face, and then I'm checking for money, and then the next thing I remember is the 2 policemen laughing at me, and I think they might have taken the money off me, or they might have given it to the taxi driver. Don't know. I don't think I had any. I think I'd been beaten up at that point already. I think I was already bleeding. And then the next, and why they didn't put me in a cell, I don't know. But this is English police authorities for you. I obviously.
Where were you, just on the office floor?
I was outside in the waiting room.
Okay.
I don't know. All I remember is seeing a poster that said, "If you're here, if you read this, you haven't had enough absinthe." And then I remember stumbling at home, and everyone was really upset with me because they'd been up all night, being worried about where I was, because if Craig was in that state and he's a strong, young stud of a man, and I'm just a fat 40-year-old guy.
Where could you be?
Yeah.
What sort of peril might
Of course, we're heading towards the punchline of the story, though. Because I stumble in and I'm yelled at by my girlfriend, screaming at me because she's been called over. She doesn't live with me, but I'm dead as far as everyone's concerned. So they're all screaming at me.
Tub.
My head's ringing, so I try and climb in under my covers into bed. Craig's asleep in his. And
we've both been euthanized.
Yeah.
And
then the phone rings.
Yeah. And on the house phone, nobody answers it because we never answered the house phone. 3, 4, 5,
Why would
5
you,
rings
really?
later, absolutely, you don't want to answer that phone. And the cabbie or the policeman, you don't want to talk to anybody.
No.
Of course, Wilmot's voice comes on, chipper and chirpy, like he'd been at the park that day. Definitely had a good breakfast, and just said, "Hey, fellas,
guys.
Absolutely awesome to see you guys. Don't see enough of you.
Great night.
Great night. Hope to see you as soon as possible. Safe travel.
See you later. Hey, woo-hoo.
Bye-bye.
Love you,
Click.
Mike.
And we're just literally pulling our teeth out of the drain, trying to figure out where our shoes are.
Yeah.
It's like never drink with Mike
Wilmot.
And he had as much as you, right?
I would
probably
think
more. I think he was chasing it with beers.
Just-
He's a man that drinks a pint of beer in 2 gulps. So the first one, this is just the way he drinks, though. He likes to really, feel it. You gotta feel it. You can actually, it's like a cartoon. You can see it go into his mouth and his throat going down like a little into the belly.
Yeah, and no discernible personality change.
No, not at all. In fact, probably more capable when he's drunk.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, tremendous.
So no screaming vomit from you, Phil?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of.
Not that
Right.
I'm aware of.
That's right.
I
You were just black.
could have. But piecing it together, something happened. Maybe I got in a cab and fell asleep, or didn't pay him, or vomited.
Couldn't find your house in the cab.
Couldn't find the house.
Yeah.
Didn't have any money on me. Whatever the deal was, he dumped me at a police station, which I recently went past near where I now live, and realized that's the police station. I remember that police station. So I walked from I've walked from Crouch End to Woodgate.
I've been arrested here.
Deja vu.
Woo! And where was it?
It's Crouch End. There's a police station in Crouch End. Yeah,
perfect. I know it.
Yeah. So
Hilarious.
that's
one of the first ones I noticed, Guy. Maybe if you haven't traveled in the UK, first surprise as a Canadian to find that's one that's closed often on the weekends. In fact,
it is.
got, open and closed hours on it. You're not used to you'll have to die tomorrow.
Seriously?
Absolutely.
Well, I connected to another police station recently. I once got arrested off a train in a place called Lancaster, which is a whole long story I want to get into. But I went to the police, got taken to the police station, and obviously stripped down and searched, and then put in a cell, and left there until I was released and signed a form and had pictures taken, all these things. But the sergeant they knew I was a comedian. The sergeant of the police station actually went, once I'd signed the "I'm guilty, I did it" thing to get a police caution. He went, "Are you a comedian?" I went, "Yeah." He went, "Oh, do you know Jasper Carrot, the famous Brummie comedian?" He went, "Oh, right." He goes, "Listen, can I drive you back to the train station?" I was like, "Well, they're not going to let me back on the train." He goes, "No, don't worry." He goes, I just got to lock up." So I'm standing there. I've just come out of a jail cell. And he's giving me all my stuff back, and he's locking the police door going, "So yeah, we come up to Edinburgh Festival every year. We should come and see you, check your comedy out. Bet you're really funny." I'm like, "I am really funny, but I am never coming back to Lancaster." I'll tell you that. And watch him lock the police show.
Do we know why you were arrested? How many times have you been arrested?
3 for sure.
No, just once, really. Once.
Just that one. Craig?
Arrested. Can I clarify? Arrested but not charged.
Yes. Yeah, similarly myself, and only once. Yeah, Montreal.
Yeah.
Oh, in Montreal?
Yeah.
I thought this was a British thing.
No, I was mine. Mine was quite innocent, actually, because I was. I've ended up writing a show about it, so I don't want to do the routine. But I ended up getting into a conversation with one of the stewardesses of the train, whose name had a badge said Steph on it. And when I was trying to rationalize with her that I was on the wrong train, I was on the right route, but the train 2 hours earlier than I was supposed to be on, which was empty. What difference did it make that I was on the train? I've got the ticket. She was like, "I don't care, you're getting off." And I was like, "Listen, Steph." She went, "That's not my name." And I went, "Well, why have it? And I swore at her. I said, "Why have it on your fucking badge?" She went, "Please don't swear at me, sir." And I went, and there's these group of Scottish guys standing behind me all laughing. "Listen to this. This is brilliant." And I was like, "Listen, Steph." She goes, "Don't call me that." I was like, "Why? Steph. Yeah. Like, your name is, you're not Steph. What am I supposed to call you? Steph. Fucking Steph. How about that?" And went on to the point where when the train pulled up in Lancaster, there were police waiting.
"Hello, officer."
For swearing at an employee of the train station.
Yeah. They changed the laws in Britain a while ago. They passed the criminal justice bill.
Now you're a terrorist.
The criminal justice bill was passed before terrorism, 9/11, all that, to stop football hooliganism, to stop football hooligans antagonizing members of the public. And so I fell into that category, and that's what that's what they took me in with. But it's only to cool you off, basically, and then they let you go. So. And get a drive by the chief, the sergeant of the police station.
Close down the station.
Who then said, "Do you want to go?"
So how do you know Steph?
Let me take you around Lancaster. He then gave me a guided tour.
Nice.
Lancaster, going, Lord Ashton,
a squad car?
Lord Ashton built Lancaster. Lancaster was built using all of the mental health rejects and mentally ill, criminally insane, and mentally deficient people that the country could scoop up. Lord Ashton built these huge workhouses for them that he kept them in, paying with his own money, and they had linoleum factories when linoleum was invented. So what he did is basically said to the British government, "I'll take these people off your hands. You want to pay them, I'll feed them," and use them pretty much as slave labor in Lancaster. So there's no wonder that the town is crawling with mental cases, and Steph being one of them. But her name's not Steph.
No.
Don't call her that.
That is Phil Nichol. We're also with Craig Campbell. They're here, part of the Snowed-In Comedy Tour. Across Canada, Alberta, and British Columbia.
Oh, yeah.
Comedy Tour is playing Sunday at the Review Stage on Granville Island, but you got a couple other shows before then. I got to say that this show is What's So Funny. I'm Guy McPherson, station CFRO 102.7 FM. We're also on your internet, on the podcast thing. Phil, you going to be okay?
He's in tears.
I hope so. I was just remembering Steph.
You should have asked her out.
I wanted to.
You missed your chance.
That's
Two shifts passed in the night.
That's where it went wrong.
One kept going.
You guys are very successful over there in England. I see you're on the TV all the time.
That's a product of that. Yeah.
Sure. But do you ever think about where you would be if you had stayed in Canada all this time?
Here at Gastown.
Just outside your door, guy.
Different part of the building.
Yeah. You'd be stepping over us to get to work.
Would you have given it up? Would you just be touring the country? Would you have a day job? But
I was hoping to be one of the puppeteers on Something Special. That's what I was. What?
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's a children's show, Something Special.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like with little puppets, like a little mouse that goes. See?
Okay.
You're
very good.
Well, better than the guy that got it. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that. Just had more mouse-like hands. What? Don't look at me like that. It's the truth.
I don't know the show.
Well, I think it was the guy.
I think you'd have been really good, though.
I think I'd be really good.
Yeah, sure.
Well, because I'm the kind of guy that would get inside the mind of a mouse.
And the ass of one.
Yeah.
With your hand. Come on!
I know what you're trying to say.
Of course.
Well, actually, Phil, you come from a musical background, right? I mean, you're the guitarist, or you were the guitarist, and you still play the guitar.
I do.
And on this tour, you will be playing some.
I'll be playing some. Play some.
You're
music.
a poet. You're an actor. You're I don't know. Are you a playwright?
I'm a playwright. Yeah, I've written a play.
There you go.
Yeah. Screenwriter, screen actor.
Oh yeah.
Paraglider.
What was that last one?
Paraglider.
Paraglider.
Yeah.
How many?
I was in the Paralympics.
Both of them?
But you identify first as a comedian?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's what my main practice is.
Were you?
I don't think I'm funny. What's that, Kevin?
Identify, just that's a funny word. Do you identify as that?
I identify
I'm
myself.
Steph.
Well, I mean,
Hi, Phil Nichol, comedian. How are you? I say, what's your name, sir? Phil Nichol, comedian.
You did a poetry show,
I've done a couple, yeah.
right? I mean, but you're most known for your comedy.
Yeah, I guess I'm known at all.
You had to make a decision, I guess, as a musician. Like, was it ever an option to be a serious musician or to be in a band that wasn't making funny songs?
No, I was in bands when I was like a teenager, but that was never really on the cards. I was always a joker.
Okay.
I did do on a dare. I submitted myself into the North by Northeast Festival in Toronto as a serious musician. With Craig's probably heard a few, because I lived with him for a while, a few of the ditties that are more serious ditties I've written, and I never played them for anyone really until I actually lived with Craig, and we just had the kind of house where we didn't own a TV and we sat up late at night. We became comfortable enough with each other that I played them for other people and without them laughing at my face. And then on a dare from another friend of mine in Toronto said, why don't you enter the North by Northeast Festival? So I put in my submission and got chosen to be in the festival. So I've actually got a recording of me doing all my serious songs at one gig at the Cameron House in Toronto, sold out, and no one knew it was me, Phil Nichol, the comedian. It was just I called myself Feeble, and people just went along to see what they thought. I mean, it's North by Northeast Festival. People just go and see whatever. And so I had about 4 friends there, and I had another 80 people, and I recorded it. And I would probably never do it again, but I've done it. It's just to say.
Why wouldn't you do it again?
Well, it's not something I'm more comfortable being funny.
Yeah.
I can't. Do
you think if they had known that you were a comedian, they wouldn't have taken you as seriously?
I don't know. I think because I'm a comedian, I was telling stories in between. Like I wrote a song called Cherry Blossom about this odd Japanese guy that came to live with us. Which has since become a comedy show called Hero Worship. Like the whole thing was a joke. But I wrote a serious song about an experience I had looking at a cherry blossom tree, which is a symbol of the Japanese national flower tree, and it's also the symbol of Hiroshima, and the cherry blossom symbolizes that. And so it's kind of got a serious edge to it, the song. Mm-hmm. So in telling them about the song at the concert, I tell the story a little bit about Hero, which is just so they're laughing, and then I go into the song, and it's actually not about him specifically. It's about something a bit more abstract, and Hiroshima specifically.
That's how you get
I don't
them.
do serious music, but the warmth that you get from an audience laughing with you is pretty. It's pretty extreme. I don't know, what the Rolling Stones experience as feedback to their songs. Clearly, they get warmth. But when you make a whole group of people laugh, it's tremendous. It's tremendous. And sillier for us that anybody would pay you for it. It's beyond. It's extreme with more extreme extremities put upon it. It's like you don't need to be paid. Of course, you need to function financially in the world, but that people are enjoying what you're doing and you get paid for it it's unbelievable.
It's addictive, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
You also, I think, by being funny, you're not as open to judgment about it, even though everyone has a concept of what's funny, what is not funny. But if I'm presenting serious music from my heart, that's I'm much open to ridicule. Whereas if I'm being a comedian, well, you can't ridicule me. I'm already ridiculing myself.
Hey, you got a small dick. I just said that.
Like I'm just being an idiot. Anyway, like if you're taking me seriously, you're.
The guy doesn't have anything close to a bulge in his pants. Look, honey, look. He just said that.
I just said that. Yeah, calm down.
It's a big joke about
this. This is how it starts, right? As kids, right? To try to
stop bullying.
Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's actually a cliche that absolutely fits in my life, because I moved from Scotland, and between the ages of 4 and 13, I moved another 9 times. Always was at a different school. Always had an accent. Always was small and skinny. Had 2 older brothers. Was just picked on constantly and developed a really big mouth.
What accent? Scottish?
Scottish accent.
Oh, you did?
And until I was about age 8, I had a clinical stutter and a lisp, which I went for. So now with a wee boy, I used to talk like that. Now, can you imagine the harassment I took?
Yeah.
So
Ridicule.
I developed a real, like, you have to really, to hurt me, you have to know me really well. Because otherwise it's just words to me. You can say whatever you like and be like, oh, really? Well, thank you. You don't know me.
We're going to play a clip from the Juice Pigs, and this ties in to your obsession with gays.
All right.
It's the big song that you have.
You too? They're not obsessed with gays, are they?
What is it? I mean, we got the gay Eskimo. You were in a play called Tattoo by
Taboo. Yeah, but I didn't write that. I'm not obsessed with it. I was cast in the play.
I know.
You think you're the one that's obsessed with it, isn't he? Yeah, look at that. Here we go. That's right, Kevin. That's right.
Think you're a little defensive.
I'm not being defensive. You're the one. You're the bald guy.
I saw you. I saw you on a
bald guy. They're either fighters or dancers. Dancer.
Okay, well then let's start the music.
Okay, let's hit it.
Okay, got it. Here's the Corky and the Juice Pigs.
The only gay Eskimo, and the only one I know. I'm the only gay Eskimo in my tribe. I go out seal hunting with my best friend Tarka, but all I want to do is get into his parka. I'm the only gay Eskimo in my tribe. Well, me and Nuckfluck Chuckbuck, we both like blubber, but me, I've got this crazy fetish for rubber. I'm the only gay Eskimo in my tribe. I make a wish on the northern lights that I could find a decent pair of whaleskin tights. I'm the only gay Eskimo in my tribe. And the seals, they sing now. These cold winter nights are taking their toll. I even get excited when I see the North Pole. See the North Pole. I'm the only gay Eskimo. Only gay Eskimo. I'm the only one I know. The only one I know. I'm the only gay Eskimo in my tribe. Now, like the Proclaimers would sing it, I'm the only gay Eskimo. I'm the only one I know. I'm the only gay Eskimo in my tribe. Like Bob Dylan, I'm the only gay Eskimo. I'm the only one I know. I'm the only gay Eskimo. Like Rico Kasich from the Cars. I'm the only gay Eskimo. The only one I know. I'm the only gay Eskimo. She used to be mine. Like Oasis. I'm the only gay Eskimo. Like Van Morrison.
Well, only Eskimo. I ain't seen it going on the street. I'm telling you that. Jesus Christ fits in there somehow as well. And the crack was good.
Well, I'm the only gay Eskimo. I'm the only one I know. I'm the only gay Eskimo in my tribe.
That was
The smoothest.
our guest, Phil Nichol,
that
with
was.
his former group, Corky and the Juice Pigs, the only gay Eskimo. We also have Craig Campbell in here. Craig, do you have a musical talent? You were singing along. You're pretty good.
I sure like singing, but I'm not in any commercial way. No, but I love a good sing song.
He's a good
find it
singer.
very cathartic.
He's a good singer. We put on like tunes in the car, and he sings along like "Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town." That's a good one.
It's fun. Good for your heart.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Or
It's hard to love a man
Peggy's
whose
Kitchen
legs
Wall
are
was one
bent
you were
and
singing today?
paralyzed.
You know all the words to Peggy's Kitchen Wall, or
Yeah.
what was it?
Sure.
What was that? What's
It's one
that?
of my
What's the
favorite songs.
Arlo Guthrie one? You know,
Alice's Restaurant.
Alice's Restaurant. We used to play. I used to play.
Thanksgivings ago, 2 years ago on Thanksgiving, when my friends and I went up to visit Alice at the restaurant. But Alice doesn't live in the restaurant. She lives in the church nearby the restaurant in the bell tower with her husband Ray and Spotcher the dog. And living in the bell tower like that, they got a lot of room downstairs where the pews used to be. And having all that room, they decided they didn't have to take out their garbage for a long time. And we got up there, found all the garbage, decided to be a friendly gesture to take the 27 sorry, I've screwed it up. But enjoyable while it lasts.
Yeah,
I like that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I like storytelling, guy. So
you're
there's
a bit
lots
of
of
a
stories and
raconteur, I
songs.
hear.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I like for my own life. But I love a song that tells a story.
Oh yeah,
and
like
I
Harry
especially
Chapin.
Yeah, I love Harry Chapin. We were listening to Harry today. Sure, a little taxi.
Yeah,
because we were reminiscing.
So I put on some reminiscing.
And
or brought Jonathan Richman's Corner Store. That's a little story, you know.
Yeah,
I love a good story, and that's really the best. I mean, the comedy I'm doing on this tour is a bit clubby. It's some kind of gags, routines, but the comedy I enjoy doing the most and had the most fun is doing long form shows where it's long stories and it's not every single line doesn't have to be funny, but they build to a really good, solid end, satisfying punchline or end.
You mean like a one-person show, one-man show,
like a one-man show
type thing?
Yeah.
Now, before
I've written 13. I'm on my 13th. Since the Juice Pigs have broken up.
I think story songs as well, or stories in general. I think Canadian audiences, if there's any complexion that they have, it's a necessity for the storyteller to have great sincerity. Because I think Canadian audiences are much more savvy than American audiences are at catching whether or not they're being deceived. And that's a great part, I think, that, you know, if there's anything that is represented that's in Canadian comedy, it's the necessity of coming across with that great integrity, because audiences are just looking for a product being sold. They're looking for a snake oil salesman, which is the quintessential American act. And, Canadians need that. They need to hear that you're talking specifically. They need the nuance of the story to paint the picture vividly that they can absorb themselves into it. That's what I love about them.
Sincerely from the comic.
Sincerity, They need to know. You know, if you're going to tell them that you know the town next door and you were there on Tuesday and you went shopping and this happened, you got to drop enough character and texture into the story that they know that that's what happened. Because as soon as they realize they're being deceived, I think Canadian audiences have a bit of an eye for that.
Right. So if you can fake that, you got it made.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah, pretty much. If you can lie to Canadians, you can lie around the world. You're sorted.
But isn't that true also in the UK?
Even more so, because the culture itself is more complex on so many different levels. It's got that many more accents, that many more locations, that many more people in general. So similar to America has that sort of complexity as well. But I think the Brits are even more keyed into the integrity of the performer, and they want to know that they're getting a product that isn't deceiving them.
So there's a certain type of comic who will go over to the UK and be able to do well, right? Like there's some Canadian comics that perhaps are great, but just won't.
Absolutely, I think that's a nail.
I mean, because you guys are all varied. We mentioned Mike Wilmot goes over there, right?
Yep.
He's his own person.
Yep.
You guys, you're musical and crazy antics,
frenetic, I guess.
Frenetic, Craig, storyteller.
Yeah.
There's Stuart Francis as a one-liner guy. He's doing amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. But all that comes down to, the through line is funny.
Yeah.
Which is, and the thing I've always said about British audiences, it's the same in Canada, but in some ways I think that, like we even found this week, if you use certain words, everybody knows what the certain words are that you may use in Canada that that you can use in the UK, but you can't use in Canada. The C word, as we all know, that can still very much shut down a Canadian audience. They can really react as a shoal of fish to not being accepting of certain, mores of society, and British audiences just don't have those particular walls up. They're not, they don't react.
But it's used differently there too.
Yeah, well, I don't know how it's used in Canada that it's created such a furore, because I don't use it in that way. It's one of, if every time people hear the C word, they think that they're talking about me. Dave, quick, hit him. which apparently is the reaction that audiences have here. It seems a pretty bizarre affectation of a society to behave so immaturely about something that just doesn't matter on any level.
It's immature.
It comes across as immaturity, and that's kind of something that you don't see on that level.
Yeah.
But what I will say about British audiences is that they don't care how you make humor. Like stand-up, as we were speaking earlier, the stand-up world in Canada doesn't like musical comedy. They don't want to support people who are getting a laugh because they have music. It's petty, and that's quite pathetic. Whereas in the UK, there's no, their background is theatre, their background is culture beyond stand-up as a classification of comedy. It's just like, to them, it's another brand of entertainment. They don't have this lifelong relationship with stand-up. So I've always said that they just like, if you go up on the UK, dress up on a stage in the UK dressed as a chicken, rather than just think, stupid chicken, they'll just think, I hope it's a funny chicken.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no,
so they won't go, prop comic.
They don't care.
Automatically,
Don't care.
I'm going to shut down.
Juggling.
No, that's
magic,
right. You get guys. There's lots of character stuff there, where a guy will go up, like Harry Hill being one of the most famous ones, or on the scene now, Milton Jones, who goes up with his hair messed up, and just an odd, like, kind of thing that Emo Phillips got away with years ago, that you probably wouldn't get. You'd get called off. You'd get taken off of a Canadian stage for now, because they have an idea of a guy in a suit that does comedy, that talks about things that are real, and in Britain, as long as it's funny, they'll go with you. As long as you've got, they know, we all know it's a show. There's no pretending that it's you're saying it for the first time. They all know it's a routine, and it's going to be a good routine. So it doesn't matter whether the routine is absurd. And there's a Canadian guy there called Tony Lloyd, is great, started doing comedy there, isn't known here, who does absurdist, really surreal, absurd. If the closest thing you come to would be a Steve Martin type of thing. It's not even that. It's just his own brand of absurdity, and Brits really go for it.
But he was also in a threesome with my cousin, so that's
sweet.
that makes him that
they've
much
only
stronger
done
than
that on stage once.
Yeah.
But that was Amsterdam, and we don't want to talk about that.
Craig,
That's small world.
Greg, you toured,
That's what the
opened
show's
for Frankie Boyle. Right?
Yeah, last year.
He's been in the news recently.
Absolutely, yeah. For people might think the wrong reasons, but for in our business, all the right reasons, because you're in the news.
Do you know the specifics? I know he talked about people with Down syndrome.
Yeah, I saw the show in question, which most of the people who were very upset about it didn't, of course. Yeah. But that's the situation that you're dealing with in the UK. That it's tabloid journalism. It's take a story that isn't even a story and run with it. Where
well, there was a complaint by somebody in the audience.
Yeah, well, this is what's wild about the world we live in now. That somebody who's in an audience, who's in the front row, distracting the comedian by being on their phone, not answering the questions that has been asked because they brought the attention to themselves to be the center of attention, and then a fictional world has been built up around them to basically ridicule them and make fun of them. Their story, because they're very upset with the situation at hand, has been then printed verbatim in various newspapers over there. This is our media now. If anybody's listening, know that this is your journalism. Not did we have anybody in the audience that wasn't involved in the incident that could tell us what happened unbiasedly, perhaps. Right. Somebody who could give a second opinion. Somebody who even, God forbid, a journalist that could be in the room in a 4,000-seater, even maybe covering what's going on to then give a even further unbiased opinion. We don't have that. We have somebody who was clearly upset, personally offended, sending their story via a blog to 3 different broadsheets, and those basically being printed as they appeared, as they arrived by email, and then that's the fallout from that unfolds.
So you're criticizing that, but at the same time you say it's great for your business.
Oh yeah, but it is great for the business. That is true.
Because
you're right. That is
now
true.
People are going to talk about him. His name's going to get out there, and then they're going to come out and
exactly right.
see him.
Because as many people that don't like it want to see people pushing boundaries, and that's ultimately. You don't have to agree with it. That's the ultimate. That's what the discussion is about. Who cares what you think? I think more people have to like just realize nobody cares what you think. Canada is a place that's filled with people that think everybody gives a flying fuck about their opinion. And they don't. Their opinion is just that, their own. They can go home and tell their wife about it. Maybe she'll enjoy the conversation and hopefully go down on them. But other than that, nobody gives a shit. Tell a bus driver. You know, if it's illegal, then by all means, call a cop and get it in court right away. That person needs to be in jail. But as far as the whole, you can't say the C word brigade goes, you can't make fun of that brigade goes, you can't say that about her hair brigade, kill yourself. Take your own life. You're bothering everybody.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're exactly
I
right.
don't agree.
Yeah. Kill
I
yourself.
think you're nasty. You're just a nasty man, Craig. You're just saying that so people
Yeah,
write
because
about it.
they do laugh at, he's making fun of these other groups that don't affect me personally. But as soon as you get to my thing...
Yeah, but that, as you say, they're laughing. So this is something, like for me on a tour where somebody's supposed to be the most offensive comic in the world, which is halfway how it's being promoted, these are people that are enjoying the show. Otherwise it would be a walkout. Guy, if somebody went up on stage, as you know from your knowledge of comedy, if you go up on stage and the audience isn't laughing, you can't get away with that.
Yeah, just
it's
to
not
be
a
offensive.
Nazi rally. What do people think? You just go up and immediately see someone in the crowd and suggest that they've got Down syndrome and poke fun at Down syndrome people and keep pointing at that person saying that they behave like a Down syndrome person. Ha ha, look at you, look at you. Nobody would support that.
Right.
The audience wouldn't be clapping. They wouldn't be laughing. They wouldn't be coming to the next show. They wouldn't be filling out 120 seats in a tour that involves 15 8,000 seat arena venues. It's just so fictional in people's heads that just like, oh, it must be this group of brown shirts gets together in an auditorium and just makes fun of Down syndrome people. It's like it clearly needs to have some entertainment value, or people wouldn't be involved in it. It's just but it's people sitting at home not actually knowing what they're talking about.
What the real story is.
Sure. I've noticed a trend here in North America that the media, I like to call them the media.
Sure, the media, yeah.
You mean you.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen stories, news stories, and it was on Chelsea Handler. She was on stage making fun of Lindsay Lohan or somebody like this. And it was reported as news, like all these horrible things she said about... And I'm going,
why is that news?
This is... She is on stage joking.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like she's...
Entertainment, yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't being interviewed and then just started lashing out at Lindsay Lohan. But
Even if she was.
Even if she was, exactly right.
Even if she was. Lindsay Lohan's made herself a public figure.
Yes.
Therefore, she's open to ridicule.
And I've seen it also. Lisa Lampanelli tweeted something about Zsa Zsa Gabor had her leg amputated. Yeah. Oh, that made the news. Like it was a pretty decent joke what she said. You know.
Yeah. But you're not allowed to be mean. Essentially.
Exactly. So even if there's sort of some craft to it,
not even if you're known as Lampanelli, the queen of mean. Not even if that's your thing.
Exactly.
It's like I'm offended by the person that's her job is to do that thing,
and it makes the news
to say the thing. It's like all I was telling it is they're saying things that we might think and censor ourselves, but deep down between your friends, you make jokes a little bit off, a little bit misguided because your friends understand where you're centered and you don't really mean it. And comedians, I sort of bring that to the stage and they make friends with an audience and go, we all think this is pretty funny, right? And it doesn't mean that I want to be mean or cruel to these people. It just means there is something that makes us uncomfortable about it, and that's good to laugh. It's good to laugh at. It's healthy to have a positive outlook towards any kind of affliction, death, disease, misery, crime. If we start taking it all so seriously we can't laugh about it, it'll just make us cry and be ill. And
but as Craig was saying, there has to be some sort of art to it, not just a railing of...
Yeah, it has to be entertainment.
Yes. But what about if it's sort of an us versus them thing? Like, oh, we're all like this, and these people we're making fun of over here, right? It's sort of exclusionary.
Well, it's not. That's actually the opposite. Because you're making fun of everything, ideally. It's the people that are exclusionary are the people that are saying you can't make fun of that. They're the ones that are drawing a boundary around things. They're the ones that are saying that one thing is not something you're allowed to make fun of. So they're already excluding that thing from humor. Whereas humor makes fun of everything. It takes everything into consideration. It's very life reaffirming and has a position. If the person's making the joke has any kind of education or artistry, then they're able to make their position quite clear in a very few amount of words. It makes people elicits the response of laughter, which allows the statement. If the person not. If there was 10 people, if there 10 people sat there and they're serious, they'd be attacked and hurt. So that's what the difference is, and that so to say excluding people is actually the opposite of what it is. It's including everyone. So, for instance, the Danish cartoonists making drawings of that insult a whole group of people isn't excluding those people. They're excluding themselves by being offended by the drawings. That's the reality.
How are they including them in that? Explain.
They're accepting that is part of the modern world and the culture as they know it. That's what's part of the culture. It's almost like saying I don't want you to express your culture, but you don't attack our culture. But right, you're expressing your own culture. Our culture is one that pokes fun at things. Well, we are now going to lose that part of our culture, and I think it's quite. I defend it as a comedian. Is that we have to be able to make fun of absolutely everything. If you start to say I'm excluding that's and that, then you may as well just exclude everything and not make fun of anything ever again.
And because this bigger topic that we're talking about comedy, but we're now talking about censorship. That's the bigger issue here. And as we know from in Europe, with political parties, and Canada must have them as well. I don't follow them, but right-wing opinions exist, and oftentimes they're prevented from entering the UK from various countries in the area, and all that does is prevent people from seeing their ideas brought to the fore, and that's not a benefit to the public at large.
No.
To prevent somebody from saying their hateful bile is actually just helping them push their bile underground and make it a lot harder for people to make a logical and rational decision. Just basically, it comes down to not trusting people, which luckily I do. I still pick up hitchhikers. We picked up probably 4 hitchhikers on this trip. I actually, not believing the propaganda that everybody who isn't in my friendship circle is probably a serial killer. I don't believe that. And I think, a lot of people should have more faith in the rest of the world around them and the logic that exists in their fellow man, to know that when somebody stands up and starts suggesting that people should go to gas chambers or those people should be euthanized because they don't look right, that we just all have a good giggle. All right.
We stand up.
Thanks.
See you later.
And that was Dave. And I think you can just it's a better situation than preventing people from being able to state their ideas. And it comes back to the same thing in a comedy room. If you go up and you start preaching your hate manifesto, you just get booed off. And that's it. You don't get rebooked.
What if you're good enough to mask your hate propaganda in good jokes?
Yeah, there's no masking, is there? Because that's once again not giving credit to the audience who's wise enough to know that they're not being fooled, right?
But also the chance of someone thinking that they're going to mask their hate propaganda. They have hate propaganda. They don't find it funny. So that's not that's not going to be cloaked in humor. Which is one of the arguments that's happening right now in the British. There's an old school of comedy like Jim Davidson's, and these guys are seen as racist, and they defend it as well. It's a different era and whatever, and they're older and whatever. But it's not incitement to violence. Whatever else you say, you don't have to like it. You don't have to find it funny. And I'm not defending it. I'm not saying it's funny, but it's not incitement to violence. Therefore, they should be allowed to say whatever they want. They're not inciting people to hate another group to violence. So when it comes to that, you have to be really clear about it, because otherwise you're going to stop people. That law is so easy to turn on people to stop me from, like, they're trying to pass this incitement to religious hatred in Britain, where Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, stands up against it. Now, I'm not a guy where you'd think would be immediately, but he can see that the end game of that is he's not allowed to dress like a vicar and make fun of vicars, which is one of his acts.
Right.
So that's ridiculous. That's absolutely insane if we got to the point where we can't poke fun at things, institutions, and things we find that have holes and are big, large warted toads need to be made fun of.
What's going to happen, though? Yeah, any ideas?
Your comedians are going to keep moving to the UK. That's what's going to happen. Because, even in my own life, one of the big things I find like a sensitive topic in Canada is you can't even, like, for a moment, try to make fun of the French-English relationship. It's now decayed, in my experience, to the point of just, it's sort of, it can be a bit of a hate battle. There's such a sensitivity with it. And in the UK, it's just another topic of comedy that you can have a laugh with.
Phil was just saying that there's this law that Mr. Bean has
Oh,
come
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah, but they're-
against,
yeah, of
right?
course.
So, I
Yeah,
mean,
but
it's
yeah.
happening there, too.
Yeah, but there's movement against these things. These things
And
will
the thing
never
with
go.
Frankie Boyle, too.
Yeah,
right?
so, these are all falling in the same camp. That they'll be.
But as
capped by this.
if there's no public opinion behind it, then there's no way they're going to enforce it.
Exactly.
Similar to the what I take to be the marijuana laws in British Columbia. And as long as the public
People don't
decide as
care.
a large group, well, I don't necessarily want to be a smoker, but if other people want to, it's not bothering us. Then there's very little. They can't move
No
against.
political
They can't.
will.
Well, there's no
There's
political
no
will.
political will.
So
what a wonderful that is such a powerful movement in Canada. Zero political will.
Yeah.
How that's the strongest vote that we have here. I love that.
sums us up
you can't
nicely.
make us care.
You can't. Yeah, you just can't. So you can't stop things. And I think not just the British, but Europeans in general have have to because of their geopolitical
Tolerance.
climate have to have a sense of humor
Massive.
about what's happening around them.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about the tabloids in Britain, but they really cover comedy well, don't they?
As does the entire media in general. It's a massive
Yeah.
business there. It's
Yeah.
massive. We shouldn't be working. Our business died in the 80s. Our business died on television with A&E, with Evening at the Improv, with being on every channel every minute. It died. The clubs have closed here. The majority of them, the chains of them, and in the UK we're on more TV shows than we've ever been on. There's more clubs opening. They've just opened a new club in Mumbai, and they're looking at another one in Delhi this year. They're bringing comedians out. They're paying us more than they pay us in the UK per night, which is more than we've ever made in our lives, putting us up in 5-star hotels, giving us 3-day vacations in between the 2-week stint that we do in one club in India. It's ridiculously blossoming. Like, we've never experienced a boom like that. In a recession, in the third year of the deepest recession that the world has known since the Great Depression, and it seems that our business just continues to boom. So I think culturally, they just need to laugh there. They love it. They continue to go to the pubs in ways that I don't know if Canadians continue to be embarrassed like that, but British people are just they're institutional alcoholics and who love a laugh and go out every night to achieve both of those things, laughing while they're getting hammered.
Well, they already show up in a good mood. Like, I mean, it's most of the time, most of the people you're playing in front. I mean, there are always exceptions, and there are always the odd person who's had too much or is in a mood. But most of the time, the audience are already laughing when they come in the door because that's the kind of nature of the people. And I think this being on this tour has been interesting for me because I haven't really done stand-up comedy in Canada. Certainly haven't been to Western Canada for like 18 years. And I think the people that are coming out to the show, like the show we did in Vernon last night, is like 700, 800 people in Vernon, and really needing a good laugh and needing comedy to push itself out a bit because all they really know of it is the stuff you see when you flick through network television or the Comedy Channel, whatever, which is good comedy, but it's sanitized for television. And so that's what we're trying to bring with the Snowden Comedy Tour, is bring a slice of real comedy. And because we've been able to practice it in this environment in England, where I can work like 365 days a year there, and any comedian will tell you the more stage time you have, the easier it becomes, and the hopefully the better you become. So we're coming out here with like really quite honed acts that would that shock and delight the Canadian audience.
And there's 4 headliners. We should say
4
Craig
headliners.
Campbell, Phil Nichol, Peter Kalamis, and Dan Quinn.
Yeah, Dan Quinn. Yeah.
And this week, what do you got coming this week? I know you
Port Alberni on Tuesday.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Tuesday.
we end in Vancouver on the 12th. We're in Mission on the 11th, and in between Port Alberni and Mission, we've got Campbell River, Courtney Campbell River, and Nanaimo.
And snowboarding on Mount Washington.
Snowboarding for
Mount
3 days
Washington.
at Mount Washington. Yeah, we got a little chalet,
Staying in a chalet.
and we're pretty excited to get up there. I was there last year. Right now, they've got the most amount of snow of any resort on the planet at 12 feet of base. And it's just a really awesome little Mon Pa hill with really friendly people on it. tons of snow and a nice little sushi restaurant with free Wi-Fi.
We didn't talk a lot about this tour, but basically that's why you guys are doing it for the snowboarding.
We're doing the snowboarding, but the thing that I was so chuffed or happy to be invited out to do this tour because it's just run by the guys. Den has set a lot of it up. Craig invited me to do it, and there's no promoters, there's no middleman, there's no clubs. It's just the four comedians setting up this tour for its third year, and successful third year. Added more gigs, added an extra week, and the payoff is you get to go snowboarding in one of the best countries, or the best country for snowboarding in the world. Yeah,
treating us as we would wish to be treated. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And no injuries.
We're limping, but we're enjoying it. We're still smiling, guy.
The show must go on.
Totally.
My girlfriend Christy did hurt her coccyx.
Yeah. And you heard her coccyx, I heard.
Yeah, no.
All right, fellas.
Noodle muffin.
Yeah. Thanks so much. It was a pleasure. I'm glad you guys came in. Next time you're in town, are you ever going to move back? Never. You're never moving back to Canada. Well, we can't,
because then we can't visit our friends in the UK. But as long as we live there, we can always visit our friends here and love it.
And ideally, if people support the Snowed In Comedy Tour, it will change, it will grow, and it will become something bigger. An independent comedy touring show is something Canada could definitely use right now.
Yeah, and could use more of them.
All right, Craig Campbell and Phil Nichol, thanks very much. Next week, we've got another Canadian who's living over in England, Pete Johansson. So tune in again next Sunday night at 11 o'clock for that. That's it. Good night.